Uh, we're going to talk about some issues in cybersecurity today. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started about a dozen companies. I've also been a VC for over 15 years and is currently raising a new fund right now. Um, and as you can see from the second slide here, some of the logos over there give you an idea of the cybersecurity stuff I've done. We just sold another cyber company to Mantech in the Department of Defense area. Okay, I started the entrepreneurship program in the Stanford School of Engineering quite a long time ago, and that's resulted in creating a lot of the content in the GIC program that's going on right now. I'm either a director or chairman of multiple high-tech companies here in the Bay Area and across the United States. So gives you a quick snapshot on me. I've been working in cybersecurity for more than 15 years now and started a number of companies. Um, on the third slide, I'm going to talk real quick about what the overarching problem is here. And I'm going to go kind of fast. Sorry about that, because we only have like 20 minutes left. And so the biggest problem in cybersecurity, as you can see here on the top of the slide, the spending on cybersecurity problems has gone from 120 billion a year worldwide in 2019 to really over 300 billion projected by 2024. And you'd think, oh boy, this is really good. And it's some really interesting markets here, and it must be doing something. But as you can see from the cyber crime losses on the right, it's actually making it worse. We're not actually solving any of these problems. The losses are projected next year to be certainly over 5 trillion. It's hard to measure, but it's really quite poor. And you can see the projected growth rate of spending and so on in the lower left there, and the forecasted ramp up in the insurance market, is quite telling. I guess that's the way to think about it, and it's going to become a problem to get cyber insurance fairly soon, actually, because the underwriters don't know how to price these products yet. So let's talk about some other issues here. And part of the reason that the cyber crime is getting worse and worse is that the risk management in a lot of these companies is really inadequate. And as you can see that from this case study on Citigroup. So this is very current, and federal regulators are about to reprimand Citigroup for really bad risk management. And this is reminiscent of what Deutsche Bank was doing a number of years ago. And in fact, they still have these problems. And this has actually caused the CEO at Citigroup to step down and turn the whole problem over to his successor, Jane Fraser. And so one of the problems is this is representative of a problem of a lot of corporations, which is they're not properly looking at the cyber risk issue. And this is a worldwide problem. And so if you go to the next slide, this talks a little bit more about risk management and why there's no real financial dimension to this. And none of this cyber spending is actually tied properly to business impact, because these problems actually impact companies dramatically in terms of risk of loss, continuity, ability to continue operating, under these attack scenarios. Ransomware, in particular, has become extremely bad during the COVID pandemic, and the tie out to business impact is really not being done. So one way that we're doing this now is we're taking a look at actually the loss pathways. And so, let's go forward now to slide 6, if you would do that, please. I can see the slides now. And so on slide 6, we're really talking about forecasting the attack pathways and losses. And this is really not being done generally these days. In some isolated instances, there are folks doing this, but not really very many. And so this is where you have to really understand. There we are. Oh, this roll down a little bit. Just go down back to the previous slide, please. Previous slide. There you go. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so this is where you have to map who the attacker groups are, and this is where you have to really understand who these groups are and how they operate. And there's a lot of detailed knowledge right there that tells you what their behaviors are going to be and what sort of assets they're actually looking for. And the right way to think about this problem from a risk of loss issue is to start on the right side of this slide and go backwards. So in other words, what are the assets that matter to your company or organization? Well, what's important and what isn't so important? And that kind of stuff needs to be ranked, because if you try to stop every possible attack or insulate yourself from everything, this is like boiling the ocean. It's not going to work. So you have to decide what's important in your company, what's important financially and in terms of impacts to business losses, and protect those first. And then you go backwards to figure out what security postures you need to do that, and what the characteristics of those attacks are going to look like in your targeted industry, and then go backward to the attack tactics. And then you can see where your real risks are and which things you need to protect and how to protect them, and not try to protect everything. There's another issue in the next slide where we're talking about cloud storage. And there's a big focus these days on network security, but that's not the only problem. And in fact, one of the biggest problems is the data. The data is not being properly secured. Regardless of how good the network security is, it's way too easy to exfiltrate data from systems, okay? And there isn't much user control over the data. There's almost no audit capability. And this is in the process now of being changed. We're in the early days of these kinds of products where you can end up having post-authentication data control, where you actually know where your data is, who has it, and whether you still want them to have it or not. And this is becoming a very exciting investment area, for sure. So there's some basic conclusions here. The losses are just going to keep getting worse. As we said earlier, in the $6 trillion prediction for losses, which is coming up, next year, these risk of loss type of approaches will slowly get adopted over time. There's starting to be traction in these areas, especially with large banks and financial institutions. Data loss prevention is going to become a real issue, sort of front and center. As you can see, the theft of intellectual property and confidential user information and things of that nature are just getting worse and worse. And so there needs to be different ways of securing, this kind of data. And as you can see in this Citigroup case, the lack of risk management is going to be really an ongoing problem. And the regulators, I think worldwide, are going to start, spending a lot more time, energy, trying to get at these sorts of things. So one thing we could do right now is, if it's possible, open it up to a few questions in our remaining minutes here. Kate, does that work?
Yeah, it works. I'm just trying to manage the whole presentation. We have a bit more time, so if you have more messages, we're absolutely ready, because we started a bit later. Mike?
Yes.
It's your final slide, so you don't want to go ahead on your presentation, right? Because okay. We have time for that.
Yeah. So would there be a question or two we could talk about here?
Yeah, sure. And you mentioned the lack of risk management right now as a key and maybe key problem or the challenge for the modern world. How it can be? What is the solution for that?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. So it's a kind of changing the way corporations look at this, not only just the cybersecurity problem, but the audit controls around how they operate. And if you go back a number of years, Deutsche Bank in particular got into a lot of trouble with regulators because of lack of process and proper communication. So, for example, some of these large banks have very disparate IT systems that are not properly integrated together, and so this in itself creates a really massive cybersecurity risk problem, because folks don't know how the data is being managed from one system to the other. There's no real overarching set of controls around this data, and the networks themselves are not properly protected. And so even if there were no cybersecurity bad actors involved at all, a lot of these organizations still have very poor control over what's going on, and this is one of the reasons that Citigroup has got a problem right now with the regulators, just because of that, is because they don't have proper control of their systems and their activities. The audit trails are very weak, and they really can't figure out what's going on. Now, then you add on top of that, this is a ripe environment for bad actors to come in and do things that are very disruptive from a business point of view. And especially now you see trends like the city of Baltimore, in fact, was shut down for over a month with ransomware attacks. Because their systems weren't properly configured to stop that kind of thing. And a lot of this, also has to do with, personnel behaviors and the way they operate and the training and so on and so forth. And so there's very little training around this kind of thing. So if
at the moment, so I feel that you have very deep expertise on financial markets, and me too. I'm focused on fintech, and right now a lot of discussions around legacy systems of traditional financial institutions and big problems they're facing right now. And if to consider open banking topic and how it can solve some problems or even to make it worse, what is your opinion on that, and how to manage all this shift to absolutely new philosophy of open banking, open data, and open finance in terms of cybersecurity, sure, and to data privacy and et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble hearing what you said. But
Yeah. So my question was addressed to financial sector and legacy systems that traditional banks have at the moment. And so how at the same time we are talking about open banking era and the importance to go to absolutely new philosophy, how to manage this new era of open banking, having legacy systems in traditional banking institutions, and to solve the problem of risk management and cybersecurity and etc.
Well, okay, was it something about open events? Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm really having trouble hearing you.
Okay. And right now, do you hear me well or not?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. What's that?
Yeah, just again, how in the era of open banking to move forward, I mean, for
Okay, in the era of open, what was that word?
open banking, open banking, open banking.
Oh, yeah, open. I'm not getting open something.
Open banking, APIs.
Open APIs and things like that. Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Well, I mean, this is basic access control stuff. Okay. So, you know, and if you're talking about distributed mobile devices and things of that nature, having access to, uh, APIs for enterprise systems and things like this, yeah, well, you can't set it up that way. Okay, there have to be strict controls on what these devices can do and what they can access. And right now, there are situations where, for example, networks have been hacked through vending machines. Okay, a vending machine was connected to the corporate network. Okay, and it's very easy to compromise the processors and things like vending machines, which have virtually no security protections on them at all. Okay, and so this is an architectural mistake. Is that the IT design of the way the company is doing it is incorrect. Okay, so this is a little bit like, you know, misconfigured systems. Okay, which is another big problem. Okay, if there are incorrectly configured switches, routers, and computers in your network, this is exactly what the cyber attackers want. They love that. This is really good news. Okay,
Yes.
we've done demonstrations where we attacked a 20,000 machine network last year that had one misconfigured system in it. Okay, and in 2 minutes we owned the entire network. Okay, so this is a real problem, and it means that the way that the the IT assets are being managed is incorrect. Okay, that's what leads to this problem. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And IoT devices and things like mobile devices and mobile phones and things like that can cause additional issues because they're being allowed to connect to networks incorrectly, and these devices, nobody even knows what they are. They're not properly vetted, and there's almost no security on any of them. So this is a real problem. Yeah.
Mike, thank you so much for your participation today. And especially, I know that it's early morning. Sorry for those technical problems we faced, but we highly appreciate your participation today at Cybersecurity Day. Thank you so much. Highly
You bet.
appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have
Yeah.
a great day.
Have a
Glad your
great day.
sessions went well.
Thank you. Great day.
Okay.
Bye-bye.